Hello and welcome to your Fantasy Premier League one-stop shop. I'm your host Stephen Gallagher and today we're looking at all things Game Week 11. Let's get straight into it. Let's take a quick look at who's been conceding the least XG so far this season. At the top of the table, it is of course Arsenal, and then you see a bit of a jump down to Newcastle, then Man City in third place, followed by Sunderland and Leeds. I know I keep saying it, but the fact that two of the promoted teams are in the top 5 for XGC per 90 so far this season is absolutely mental. So I wonder, should we really be targeting these teams for our attackers? If we compare each team's XG conceded with their fixture difficulty rating from a defensive perspective over the next 5 game weeks, we get this plot and we can see Arsenal on the far right. The gap between them and the other teams from a defensive perspective just continues to grow. They do have decent fixtures as well, the third best fixtures from a defensive perspective according to this plot, so they're obviously a defense worth investing in. Other than that, you can see Bournemouth and Chelsea, the two teams with really good fixtures, but maybe they're not the best defenses in the league so far. So which defenses should we be targeting? If we rank each team by their fixture difficulty multiplied by their defensive strength, we get this table which gives us an idea of who is most likely to keep clean sheets over the next 5 game weeks. Of course, Arsenal is at the top of the table with Sunderland away, Spurs at home, Chelsea away, Brentford at home, and then Villa away. If you don't have an Arsenal attacker, I'd recommend getting one. If you don't have 2 Arsenal attackers, I'd recommend getting 2. You could even go for a triple up, but obviously the likes of Saka and Rice will come into our thinking, so I think a double up is probably the best play for now. Gabriel is my favourite pick, followed by Timber and then Raya. Second in the table are Bournemouth with Villa away, West Ham at home, Sunderland away, Everton at home, and then Chelsea at home. So some decent fixtures, especially the West Ham and Sunderland fixtures in game weeks 12 and 13. I think Senesi is a very popular pick that a lot of us still have him in our teams. He looks really good for DEFCON, and if he can throw in a few clean sheets as well, he's a great pick. Chelsea third in the table with Wolves at home and Burnley away, followed by Arsenal at home, Leeds away, and then Bournemouth away. I think the next 2 fixtures are really where we're getting the value out of Chelsea defenders, the likes of Cucurella, Chalobah, Sanchez and Nets. Reece James is another option as well. I think these are the players that we should be looking at, but you never know with Chelsea defence. I think if you're going to get one of them, now is the time to do so with Wolves and Burnley in the next 2. On to the attackers, let's have a look at who's been creating the most XG so far this season. At the top of the table, it is of course Man City, then a bit of a jump down to Crystal Palace, another jump down to Arsenal and Liverpool, who are actually tied third for a non-penalty XG per 90, then it's Man United, Chelsea, Brighton, and then a sizable gap down to the rest of the table. If we compare each team's XG created with their fixture difficulty rating from an attacking perspective over the next 5 game weeks, we get this plot. There's no clear standout options in the top right. You could say Man United and Palace are the 2 near the top right. They have good fixtures and have been good going forward so far this season. Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool and Brighton in amongst them as well there, and then Man City on the far right of the plot. Not the best fixtures, but when Erling Haaland is in your team, you're guaranteed to score some goals. So which attacks should we be targeting? If we rank each team by their fixture difficulty multiplied by their attacking strength, we get this table which gives us an idea of who will score the most goals over the next 5 game weeks, and Crystal Palace are top of the table with Brighton at home, Wolves away, Man United at home, Burnley away, and then Fulham away. So some really nice fixtures there, and like I said, they've been great going forward this season. Mateta and Sarr are definitely 2 picks that we should be looking out for. In fact, Mateta is probably the best striker in the game after Haaland, so if you don't have him and are looking for a Gyökeres replacement, that's an easy transfer for me. Man United are second in the table with Spurs away, Everton at home, Crystal Palace away, West Ham at home, and then Wolves away. Some really nice fixtures there, and to be fair, their fixture run is really nice all the way up until I think game week 21 or 2. So they have really good fixtures for a long-term pick. I think Bruno and Mbeumo, they're 2 players that we should be looking at. Obviously Mbeumo was the most transferred in player last week and he didn't do much, but I'd back him to do well over this fixture run. Third in the table are Chelsea again with Wolves at home, Burnley away, Arsenal at home, Leeds away, and then Bournemouth away. Obviously that Arsenal at home fixture is dark red in our table here. We don't expect teams to score many goals against Arsenal in general, but if you have someone like Enzo, João Pedro in your team already, then I think they're definitely holds for this fixture run, and I wouldn't even mind buying either of them for this run here if you can bench them in the Arsenal game. Fourth in the table are Arsenal with Sunderland away, Spurs at home, Chelsea away, Brentford at home, and then Villa away. Saka and Rice are the 2 players that we're looking for in attack. I like like Marino as a 1 game week punt. I know people are mentioning him, but when Gyökeres is back, I expect Marino to fall back into the bench. So I would say Rice and Saka are the two that we can rely on for consistent starts over this run. I think Rice is a good value pick when you consider how many goals Arsenal are scoring from set pieces and the fact that he takes a majority of those set pieces. He's obviously going to be a good pick there, but I do prefer Sarr at the same price as an FPL pick. On to the stats review, where we analyse the best performing players statistically. Players in red are the most expensive, in green are the cheapest, and the size of their bubble is relative to their minutes played. You can see Petrovic and Sanchez, the Bournemouth and Chelsea players, in the top of the plot with some really easy fixtures coming up, and then Raya on the far right. He's just a reliable pick, 6 points every game week. You can bank on Arsenal to get a clean sheet. Onto the defenders, we're looking at expected goal involvement per 90 compared to fixture difficulty from a defensive perspective. You can see Senesi and Truffert, the two Bournemouth lads near the top of the table, and Senesi's data has looked so good this season. I think he's a really good hold. Followed by the Chelsea lads with Chalobah, Cucurella, Reece James. He's a bit of an interesting pick. I know he doesn't have the best injury record, but he looks to be getting consistent 90s in the Premier League, so he could be a good pick going forward. Then it's the Arsenal lads with Calafiori and Timber out in the far right with really high expected goal involvement. Then Gabriel, he's in amongst it. Pretty good expected data, not the best, but he has been getting in amongst it in the box for Arsenal. Another player on the far right of the plot is Munoz. He's got really good expected data. The fixtures coming up are quite good as well for Palace. Then you see Van Ven at the bottom of the plot with really good expected data, and he scored another goal midweek in Europe. I'm just not sure we can expect him to continue producing these attacking returns over the season, but let's see if he can keep it up. If we replace the expected goal involvement per 90 with defensive contributions per 90, this is where Senesi really starts to stand out. You can see he's in the top right of the plot, far away from everyone else. Great fixtures, great defensive contributions. He's just a great pick. Followed by Chalobah, he's now the standout Chelsea option. Gabriel now the standout Arsenal option there. I think these are the players that I'd be more tempted to go towards, unless you're going for a player like Munoz, whose expected goal involvement is just so high. The likes of Senesi, Chalobah, Gabriel, it just offers a more consistent route to points with this DEFCON potential. On to midfielders, we're comparing expected goal involvement per 90 with the fixture difficulty from an attacking perspective. The West Ham lads are at the top of the plot, but everyone in this plot is green except for Salah because his high price just skews the colour of all the rest of the midfielders. But now that we know where he is, we can remove him from the plot to get a better look at the rest of the mids. Paquetá is probably a good differential shout. The fact that he's on penalties is a huge point in his favour. I'm just not sure I really back the West Ham attack in general. Below them we see the Man United and Crystal Palace players with similar fixture difficulty ratings. Mbeumo, Fernandes and Sarr are the standout picks from those two teams in midfield. Below them we see Enzo on the far right. I think he's been a bit unfortunate not to have a few more attacking returns over the past few game weeks. Then to the left of him is Semenyo, a player that had a really strong start to the season but has started to taper off slightly. I wonder if he can return to the form he had at the start of the season. Let's hope he does. As a Semenyo owner, of course, I'm going to say that. If we focus more just on the far right of the plot, we see Saka there, the standout Arsenal midfielder, Gakpo, the standout Liverpool midfielder, even ahead of Salah. If we swap expected goal involvement with defensive contributions per 90, we see Paquetá move more to the right of the plot, and Mbeumo move to the far left of the plot. He's not really that style of player, but Bruno Fernandes does stay in amongst it for the United mids. Then to the far right, we see Caicedo is by far the standout Chelsea option in terms of getting us consistent DEFCON points. But he has been getting a few attacking returns as well, which we wouldn't have expected from him, but if he can keep it up and the DEFCON points as well, he'll be a really good value pick. On to the forwards, we're looking at expected goal involvement per 90 compared to fixture difficulty. As you can see, Haaland is at the bottom right of the plot. Not the best fixtures, but you just back him to get a goal every week against whoever he's playing against. He's going to get a goal. Even this weekend against Liverpool, I think it's a tough fixture for City, but you'd back him to still get a goal here. But let's remove him from the plot to get a better look at the price of the rest of the forwards. Mateta, still a standout option. He's close enough to Haaland in terms of his expected data there, but if you really want to go for the fixtures, Bowen is the standout option. His expected goal involvement is actually really low compared to most of the forwards in the game, but with those fixtures, the fact that he is a bit of a talisman for West Ham, I think he could be a spicy differential if you want to go there. Speaking of captaincy, this is the type of thing that I like to look at when I'm picking my captain, and Rob T's graphics on Twitter are really helpful to get a perspective on which teams are most likely to score goals over the weekend, who's projected to get the most goals, and who has the highest clean sheet odds. As you can see, Arsenal with 50% clean sheet odds and also 1.93 projected goals, which is the third highest this game week. Chelsea also with high clean sheet odds and the highest projected goals of the game week, Could go in for someone like João Pedro be a nice differential punt this weekend, but then you'd have to back against Haaland. And City have 1.99 projected goals, which is the second highest of the game week, even though they play against Liverpool. I think that's justification enough to still go for Haaland this weekend. Looking at my game week 10 review, my defense carried here massively. In fact, it was Arsenal defense that carried, and Gabriel in particular with a 12-pointer, Munoz with 6 points, Raya with 6 points as well. The midfield did basically nothing for me other than a Bruno Fernandes DEFCON hit, and then all my strikers scored, which is obviously nice to see. My transfer last week was Gvardiol to Munoz, and that obviously worked out well for me. So let's hope I can make another good transfer this game week. For game week 11, I think my plans are pretty straightforward. With Gyökeres out injured, Mateta is the obvious replacement here. He has a good run of fixtures, Brighton at home this weekend. I back him to keep up his form, and I think he's the obvious replacement for me. That's all for today, folks. If you're still watching, then I hope you enjoyed the video. Drop a like if you did, and subscribe if you haven't already. We're still aiming for 10,000 subs by the end of the season, so join the community if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, have a good one.